What's up, y'all? It's G.C. Kinsey, here to talk about how my asexuality has benefited me and why I think it feels like a superpower. Not long after I first came out as asexual, I had a friend ask me what being ace was like. And the first word that came to my mind was invincible. Being ace made me feel invincible. It felt like a superpower. In a highly allonormative world, being ace can make our lives harder in a lot of ways. We're misunderstood, disbelieved, and forgotten by the vast majority of the population. We're discriminated against in some really insidious ways, from having our orientation pathologized in the healthcare system, to being sent to conversion therapy, to even being subjected to corrective rape, and yet a lot of that discrimination is swept under the rug just like we are. We're even left out of the conversation a lot of times within the wider queer community, where our inclusion is unfortunately still the subject of debate. So I think it's important to balance all of that out with the positive aspects of being ace, the advantages it can bring us. And I want to talk about what those advantages are for me and why my asexuality feels so much like a superpower. But before I do that, I want to throw in a quick reminder that asexuality is a whole spectrum. It not only includes asexuals who experience zero sexual attraction, but also gray asexuals who experience rare or infrequent attraction, or who only experience it under specific circumstances, or maybe aren't even sure what sexual attraction is. And in addition to that, sexual attraction is not the same thing as sexual interest, sexual behavior, sex favorability, libido, etc. So there are a ton of different ways people might experience their asexuality. We're not a monolith, and my experiences won't necessarily reflect those of everyone else in the ace community. With all that in mind, hopefully some of you will be able to relate to what I am about to say. So here are 5 ways that being asexual makes my life better. Number 1, I don't get distracted by sexual attraction. I'm not sexually attracted to anyone, so that doesn't occupy my thoughts or compete for my attention or make me lose focus in the way I've heard it can for people who do feel sexual attraction to others. I remember being in high school and hearing some of the things my friends and classmates were saying after they had first started trying out sex. Like how they had a hard time thinking about anything else, or how difficult they found it to be away from their partners after that, or how they didn't want to break up even if a relationship wasn't going well because the sex was too good and they didn't want to go without it. I even heard one person say that they wish they could go back in time and not start having sex when they did, because they found it easier to deal with their feelings of sexual attraction before they knew what doing something about that attraction was like. And I remember thinking, even at that age, more than a decade before I would realize I was ace, I'm so glad I don't feel like having sex yet, because I can't imagine being that distracted by it. Of course, now that I am aware that I'm ace, and I've made it all the way to my mid-30s without ever having been sexually attracted to anyone, it's awesome to know that I won't ever have to deal with that particular distraction. Number 2, I don't have any of the stress that comes with being sexually active. Because I'm ace, I don't engage in any sort of partnered sexual activity, and that takes a ton of stress off my shoulders. When you are sexually active with one or more partners, it does introduce some risk, whether it's the risk to your health from sexually transmitted infections, or depending on your reproductive capability, the risk of pregnancy. So by not engaging in any of that, I don't have to worry about those risks. There's definitely still some worry at the back of my mind about what if something happens non-consensually, which I think is something a lot of people worry about, but in my day-to-day life, worrying about my sexual health is not at the forefront of my thoughts. One of the reasons I put this on my list of ace superpowers is because I remember what it felt like to have that stress. In my last relationship, which happened before I knew I was ace, even the very few, very limited sexual things I was willing to try with my partner worried me a lot. It wasn't fun, and I was happy to get rid of that worry once that relationship ended. At this point, I've been single for more than 10 years and don't plan on having a partner ever again. But on the extremely off chance that it were to happen, I would only even consider it if I knew the relationship would not be sexual, like if they were also ace or just didn't want to have sex for whatever reason. I don't ever want to reintroduce that risk and all the stress that goes with it back into my life. I like knowing it's not an issue and never will be. Number 3. I can enjoy erotica like it's any other genre of fiction. A really cool thing about the way my asexuality works is that I'm not turned on by sexual content, but I'm not repulsed by it either, as long as it doesn't have real people in it. So erotic literature, comics, art, that kind of stuff is great. Anything with real people is a no-go. Anyway, what this means is that I can enjoy erotic media the same way I would enjoy any other kind of non-erotic media. Reading a smutty novel or fanfic is no different to me than reading a psychological thriller or a murder mystery or slice of life or whatever genre, take your pick. I get the same thing out of it, which is sheer entertainment, and that has some pretty cool perks. Like being able to read about my favorite characters going to Pound Town while I'm sitting on a train or a plane or a bus or a beach or in any other public area with a completely straight face. Or being able to trade erotic media recommendations with my friends with zero embarrassment. Or even being able to create my own, because it just doesn't affect me in that way. And that definitely feels like a superpower to me. Number 4. I can appreciate aesthetic attraction without any weird baggage. Before I learned about the split attraction model through the ace and aro communities, I used to think that any attraction was all attraction. So if I was aesthetically attracted to someone, I assumed that meant I was automatically attracted to them in all the other ways too, sensually, sexually, romantically, etc. And for a while, that was a real issue for me, as someone who experiences very strong and very frequent aesthetic attraction to lots of different people, but only experiences sensual and romantic attraction to a very few, and sexual attraction to none. It left me feeling like there was something wrong with me for not feeling all the attraction I was supposed to feel for all of these very good-looking people. I also used to worry that I was unintentionally sexualizing people just for finding them good looking, and feeling guilty about that because I hated the thought of others sexualizing me even though I wanted them to find me good looking too. And I never felt comfortable expressing my aesthetic attraction to others because I was afraid that it meant by default that I would be offering way more than just a compliment. But now that I understand that I can be attracted to someone just aesthetically and not in any other way, I can let go of all the baggage and the assumptions I used to carry around about aesthetic attraction. And instead, I can just enjoy it for what it is, looking at people and appreciating how they look. Nothing more, nothing less. Number 5. I can communicate about relationships more effectively. This one is less of a superpower that comes from being ace and more of a superpower that comes from knowing I'm ace. Now that I have the information and the language to explain how my orientation works, I'm much better equipped to communicate about relationships than I was before. Like I said, I don't plan on having a partner ever again, so in light of that, this particular superpower might seem kind of useless, but I've actually found that it's still quite helpful. If I do have a rare instance of romantic attraction to someone, I can explain that. If I experience alterous attraction to someone, I can explain that. If someone else expresses that they're attracted to me, I can respond in a way that's both honest and effective. So even if I don't plan on getting into another relationship, a lot of that pre-relationship talk that happens between people when various types of attraction are forming, determining compatibility, stating boundaries, deciding what you want to do, that sort of thing, is a lot easier for me to navigate now that I know I'm ace. In the past, I had no words for any of this, only vague feelings that I couldn't articulate. And what that resulted in was 2 partnerships that were ultimately incompatible matches, which ended with hurt feelings and no chance of even salvaging the friendships we had before. So now that I can communicate effectively about relationships, I consider that to be one of the best ace superpowers I've gained. Okay, that wraps up my list of advantages to being asexual, and now is where I want to turn the conversation over to you. What are some ways that being ace benefits you? What do you like about being ace? What are some of the positive aspects of it? And how do those help counteract the negative aspects? Does being ace feel like a superpower to you, or do you experience it differently? Drop a comment below, and let's get a discussion going. You can also reach out to me on other social media. I am G.C. Kinsey across all platforms. And while you're here, feel free to check out some of my other videos. I have more vlogs like this one about my experiences as a queer person, along with cosplay music videos, makeup tutorials, pre- and post-testosterone voice recordings, and more right here on this channel. So make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss anything new. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. I hope you enjoyed yourself and learned something new, and I will see you on the next one.